Hello everyone, I hope you're all having a great day today. Now, if you're familiar with Spider-Man movies, you probably know that he has a pretty good variety of villains. As a matter of fact, he probably has one of the best rogues galleries. It might even be second to Batman's. So in this video, we're going to be doing a tier list of the different Spider-Man villains from the theatrically released movies. Keep in mind though, this is just my opinion, and I would love to see how you would rank them in the comment section down below. And without any further ado, let's hop right into the tier list. So we're going to start things off with Norman Osborn, aka Green Goblin, who was in the first Spider-Man movie in 2002, and then he also came in No Way Home. In both movies, I think he's phenomenal. Willem Dafoe did a great performance, so I'm going to put him in the S tier. I definitely like the split personality. He's just a really complex character. So in both Spider-Man 2002 as well as No Way Home, I think it's just a really good version of the character. The only thing I wish they would have done differently is maybe his costume. They originally were going to make it more comic accurate, but they just ended up not doing that. Then we have Doc Ock, and I'm going to put him in the A tier. I think he's definitely a good villain. And again, another one that's a little bit complex, where he's trying to deal with his failure and is just driven crazy by his own creation. And I think his robotic arms are definitely like really cool. When it comes to the action, fighting Spider-Man, that kind of stuff, I think the robotic arms make for the most interesting action sequences. So he's just all around a really good villain. Then we have Sandman from Spider-Man 3. And I'll probably put him in the B tier. I think Thomas Hayden Church did a really good performance, and I like how visually they made him look like the comics. And he's also one of the villains that appeared in No Way Home. And I think visually what they did with his powers and that kind of stuff was really neat. The reason he isn't higher though is because his motivations like never really made much sense. Just because he had this sick daughter, somehow that justifies him being a criminal. I don't even understand the logic behind that. And then they had to make him have like a personal connection to Spider-Man, which was kind of unnecessary, but otherwise a pretty solid villain. Then we have the Harry Osborn Green Goblin from Spider-Man 3, and I'll probably put him in the C tier. The first like 2 movies did an excellent job of setting this character up, and just as a character in the trilogy, Harry Osborn is really good. But when he becomes a villain, it just comes off as underwhelming. It doesn't make sense why he waits until some random point in the movie to start attacking Peter, and then he conveniently loses his memory for a huge chunk of the movie just because they needed to sideline him for the other villains. Now when you get to the end of the movie, it's really nice how he becomes friends with Peter again, but just his development throughout the movie, how he gets to each point, it feels lazy. It wasn't done very well. Then we have Venom from Spider-Man 3, and I'll probably put him in the C tier as well. I don't think he's as bad as people say, but he's also not great. Basically, Eddie Brock in this movie is just kind of like this jerk, and then he winds up coincidentally getting the venom on him after Bully Maguire loses it, so it's not really anything that special. Then we have the Lizard from The Amazing Spider-Man, and I'll probably put him in the B tier. I think he is pretty good. I kind of like the backstory Dr. Connors had with Peter's father, and his motivation made sense why he wanted to experiment to grow his arm back, and then he turns into this. But he's just not quite on the same level as the characters above him. Then we have Electro from The Amazing Spider-Man 2 as well as No Way Home, and I'll probably put him in the C tier. I think Jamie Foxx did a really good performance, and the character development felt way better in No Way Home. But as for The Amazing Spider-Man 2, his origin of falling into the tank of eels was just really dumb, and he kind of seemed like a goofy character, and it didn't really match with the tone of the rest of the movie. But still, nonetheless, his powers are cool, and it makes for some good fight scenes. Then we have Harry Osborn Green Goblin from The Amazing Spider-Man 2, and I'll probably put him in the D tier. I don't know if it's as corny as the James Franco one gets in Spider-Man 3 at certain points, but in all honesty, the reason this is so low is because this version of the character feels very underdeveloped. His relationship with Peter wasn't established in an earlier movie, and then when he gets the goblin disease and that kind of stuff, the plot points of him transforming into the Green Goblin just feel rushed. Then we have the Rhino from Amazing Spider-Man 2, and I'm going to put him in the F tier. This is nothing like the comic book counterpart of the character, and this is just a really goofy version of the character. It feels out of place in the movie. Then we have Michael Keaton as the Vulture, and I'm going to put him in the S tier. I think Michael Keaton is a really good actor, and he just did a really good job as the villain in this movie. The thing that really stood out about this character was the plot twist that he was Liz's father, and that just adds some layers to the character, where he's just this evil guy that's trying to provide for his family, and that's just really interesting. Then we have the Shocker from Spider-Man Homecoming, and I'm just going to put him in the D tier simply because he's not really in the movie much. He's just kind of a side character that really has like one scene. So I can't really put him that high because he doesn't do anything really significant. Then we have Kingpin from Into the Spider-Verse, and I'll put him in the A tier. He actually comes off as pretty intimidating. I mean, he is this pretty big guy, but his motivations like make perfect sense of him wanting to use the multiverse to bring his family back. So this is just another one of those layered characters. Then we have the Prowler from Into the Spider-Verse, and I'm also going to put him in the A tier. I think it was just really cool how it turned out to be Miles' uncle. And again, that makes the character more complex. It gives a personal relationship with Spider-Man without it feeling forced, and just his gadgets and that kind of stuff seem really cool. Then we have Mysterio from Spider-Man Far From Home, and I'll probably put him in the B tier. I think overall he's pretty okay. The thing that's really good about him is the illusion sequences and that kind of stuff, and it is just pretty interesting how he uses this technology to make himself seem like a superhero. And I do really like how his backstory involves Tony Stark even after his death. It just kind of shows the effect that Tony Stark had on this universe. And finally we have the Spot, who I'll put in the A tier. I definitely think it was pretty cool how they were able to do this villain where he was the guy that got hit with the bagel and all this crazy stuff happened. He's funny and intimidating at the same time, and I think he was just one of the biggest strengths of Across the Spider-Verse. And as for the villains that are left, these are just from the game. We're not going to be ranking those in this video. But overall, that was my tier list. Let me know what you thought about it, and share in the comment section down below how you would rank these villains. As always, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.